So what really happened last night? Banker-bought Nazi Pelosi tore up banker-bought Trump's State of the Union speech, and banker-bought fake stream media is going to exploit the hell out of it for ratings to make you believe the entire stage show was real.
God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
This was day 1111 of the Trump administration. We are talking about dual stories. The State of the Union address we just witnessed, hard to bring together in one cogent sentence.
Steve Scalise joins us right now, Louisiana Congressman, House Minority Whip. Congressman, always good to see you. Did you witness that? Did you see that? What did you think of that?
I did, and look, Neil, it was one of the most disgraceful things I've seen. You know, State of the Union address, it's a time where we talk about what's great about the country. I mean, the president's theme was the great American comeback, something we all should be celebrating. Clearly, there are political issues that get blended in, and, you know, one side sits down, the other side stands up. Frankly, I was kind of shocked that they would sit down when we were talking about killing terrorists, things that used to unite this country. The fact that they can't even celebrate that. Some of the other things they sat down on, you know, the lowest unemployment for African Americans and Hispanics in the history of our country. We should all celebrate that. But they would sit down for that. So I thought that would look bad for them. But when she did that, ripped the speech, you know, it's just a new low that you see with this impeachment, this personal vendetta that they've had against this president. I think it looks bad upon them. I think people that are watching this at home, you know, that might not agree with everything, that might not be hardcore left or right, that just want the country to be successful, they look at that and they say, wait a minute, these people just don't have the kind of level of respect for what makes America great. And I think in the end, you know, like when you're seeing what's going on in Iowa last night, their party's in a meltdown right now, and maybe it's affecting their better judgment.
We were talking about that sort of dramatic visual that we had right at the end of the president's State of the Union address, in which Nancy Pelosi pointedly, I'll demonstrate, pointedly took her copy of the speech and tore it, and then went page by page and tore it in half.
I'll demonstrate. Pointedly took her copy of the speech and tore it, and then went page by page and tore it in half.
As Speaker Pelosi left the floor, a couple of NBC News reporters asked her what she thought of the speech, and she told them, quote, "I tore it up." She was asked why she tore it up, and she said, quote, "Because it was the courteous thing to do, considering the alternative."
Ooh.
Which makes my mind immediately
it on fire?
Start to conjure a number of different alternatives.
Yeah.
When the speaker, who has admonished her caucus on more than one occasion to, you know, present themselves with you know, decorum and so on and so forth, she was just angry.
She ripped up the speech.
She ripped up the speech. I was just texting with a source close to her who said, I know this is probably a little obvious, but that was not planned.
Oh yeah, it's obvious that it wasn't planned at all.
That was an emotional moment. That was a genuine reaction to what she just heard the president do.
She ripped it up and then she threw it
and she threw it down. And
yeah.
there are lots of reasons for that. Well, I mean, just on the substance of it, one of many reasons she would argue is because of what you just said about health care. Him telling the American people and the world that he thinks that pre-existing conditions should be...
He's going to guarantee it. It's a guarantee.
Should be guaranteed when he is, in fact, in court fighting to
take it away.
Dismantle Obamacare. I was at a meeting with her and with Chuck Schumer, the Senate Democratic leader, today, and they predicted that he would do exactly that. They're also trying to turn the page back to health care. So they were prepared for that. But the fact that, you know, both sides, everybody's so on edge. And even in this moment where usually they try to be on their best behavior again, they didn't even try.
Well, you know, I don't know. It's almost like my two teenage boys and get separated if they're fighting with one another. But, well, no, you didn't shake my hand, so this was my natural response. We don't know what was going on there. Did you see that it looked like the president deliberately avoided her or the opportunity to shake her hand?
No, and I mean, when he came in, he was courteous to her at the beginning of the speech. So, you know, again, I think that optic is going to look bad for her ultimately, and that's something she's going to have to answer for. And if that's what they want their party to represent, I think they're going to lose a lot of middle America, the hardworking people, by the way, who are benefiting from the work that President Trump is doing. He truly is rebuilding this country, and whether you agreed with the policies or not, if they're working, you ought to applaud it. Just because you vote for or against a bill, if the bill actually helps people who are doing better. When he talked about, that young girl who didn't have opportunities in a failing school, and now she's able to go to the school of her choice, everybody should applaud that. And so, again, the people are watching this at home, and I think it not only looks childish, it looks disrespectful, and it's a low for the institution to represent yourself as Speaker of the House that way.
It didn't take very long, Jake, for the White House to react to Nancy Pelosi ripping up the president's speech and then just basically tossing it.
Well, and it would be political malpractice for them not to do it. It was such a visceral moment. As Dana points out, it was not planned by Speaker Pelosi. It was obviously done because she was upset at what the speech was. And the White House has now tweeted, Speaker Pelosi just ripped up one of our last surviving Tuskegee Airmen, the survival of a child born at 21 weeks, the mourning families of Rocky Jones and Kayla Mueller, a service member's reunion with his family. That's her legacy. That's a quote that I'm reading. Obviously, when Speaker Pelosi is asked about this, she's going to say that she did not have an issue with those moments about mourning families or families reuniting the Tuskegee Airmen, that what the issue was that she was upset about obviously had to do with the more partisan moments of the speech in her view. But that is, of course, what we expected. And Dana Bash and I were talking about this.
Before you ask Dana, I just want to point out Speaker Pelosi just tweeted
I was just
this.
That's what I was looking at. I didn't mean to be.
Go ahead.
Well, there are a couple things. First of all, just staying on this topic, she told Fox up on Capitol Hill that the reason that she ripped up the speech is because that was the courteous thing to do.
Yeah, she said that to a bunch of reporters while walking in the hall.
Yeah, okay. So
why was it courteous?
I guess as opposed to throwing it at him? Something like that, I suppose.
The point that she was trying to make is what she really wanted to do was a lot more...
Was a lot harsher.
Harsh.
Than ripping it up.
So that was the nice thing that she sort of found to do.
Hard to put how unusual this was, from the Speaker of the House ending by pointedly ripping up the text of the speech, to the president here engaging for the second time the Chief Justice, who is sitting as judge at his impeachment trial, which continues tomorrow, to the Republican chant of 4 more years prior to the start of the speech. The dark parts were dark, the bizarre parts were bizarre, down to the awarding of the Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh by the First Lady during the speech, which at so many points differed from the truth.
Think about that, guys. Lion Brian Williams has the gall to talk about somebody else differing from the truth.
There are many on social media following this. Not exactly a quick instant read of the accuracy or what they're, talking or writing about. But they deem this to be a political speech on the part of the president to sort of, get right back in their face and talk about things he knew in that crowd, where half of them, if you think about it, Congressman, wanted to impeach him, remove him from office. And that might still be the case where certainly all 47 Democratic senators tomorrow will want to convict him. Now, he will likely survive that because all the Republicans will vote against doing something like that. So I'm wondering what you make of the divisive nature of this, where half the people in that room wanted the president out, and he was getting right to them, saying, all right, I'm going beyond you. Do you think that was his strategy?
Well, I think it was President Trump saying, I'm not going to be deterred. This is a president who stared down a lot of people. He stares down bad guys and terrorists. He's taken on China. He's taken on Iran. He stood up for what's great about this country. And again, the theme was the great American comeback because it's working. Again, disagree or agree with policies. You can stand and sit during certain things if you don't agree with a proposal he's laying out. But when he talks about a result where American families are doing better.
I respect the heck out of you. When you got shot and barely survived that, and it was heroic on your part what you went through. That united Democrats and Republicans like nothing I've ever seen, maybe going back to 9/11. That's a testament to the respect both parties have for you and the camaraderie they feel for you. But man, oh man, I think in this environment, I'm not blaming the president, I'm not blaming Nancy Pelosi, but I do not think that goodwill exist today. Am I missing something?
There were a few dramatic moments beyond just the bizarreness. Signing the tie here would be one of them. But the awarding of the Presidential Medal of Freedom to talk radio host Rush Limbaugh, not only announcing that he would receive it, but instead of doing it in the East Room with the ceremony and the president awarding it, having the president's wife, the first lady, pin it on right there in the audience was just was an unusual thing, to say the least. But there was some drama and some moments where you might have noticed something happening in the room, but you might not have been able to tell what exactly was happening. At one point, there was a person who was ejected from the chamber, ushered out by security. We believe that was Fred Guttenberg, who was watching from the gallery. He is not a member of Congress or a senator. He is a man who lost his daughter in the Parkland shooting. And we believe that he shouted out something after the president started talking about gun rights.
It's at a low point, I mean, clearly. And what you talked about, I mean, it was special. When I came back, you saw that there are times when people can come together. And we're going to get back to that point. But I think they are so fixated on almost a hatred for the president that it's clouded a lot of other judgment that they should otherwise have. You know, and we're going to get through this election. I think the president's going to get reelected because of the story he had to tell tonight. But they're going to have to figure out how to come together. And when he says, I want to work with Congress to lower drug prices, they ought to be willing to work with him because he wants to do that. On criminal justice reform, that was a very bipartisan bill that was signed by the president that he worked with Democrats on. They ought to get back to that approach of working with him and not just looking at him as a guy they want to beat in an election.
Standing up for that one. But Congressman, thank you very, very much. Good seeing you again.
And Mr. Guttenberg was removed from the chamber. Tim Ryan, the Ohio congressman who ran for president earlier this year and last year, in large part on the strength of his gun reform proposals, also walked out of the chamber around that time. We're trying to keep track. We think it's about a half dozen members of Congress who may have left during the speech. But this had a lot of showmanship to it.
But separately, on the idea of the president, kind of blowing off her attempt to shake his hand, this is what she said in a tweet just moments ago, and this is what you're referring to, Wolf. Democrats will never stop extending the hand of friendship to get the job done for the people. We will work to find common ground where we can, but we'll stand our ground where we cannot.
So one of the things that I think is interesting here is that Speaker Pelosi has been really effective at getting under Donald Trump's skin. And she has done, I think, generally speaking, a pretty good job at not letting his attacks get to her, while he makes it very clear when her attacks bother him. He has little outbursts on Twitter and the like. I think we saw a little bit of the opposite here.
Chair declares the joint session of the two houses now dissolved. Then we go.
Showmanship by design from the president, but also a remarkable exclamation point, visual exclamation point there at the end from the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, as she tore the speech before setting the pieces of it aside before the president had even left the dais.
If you guys enjoy these videos, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give them a thumbs up, and share them with everybody you know. And don't forget to subscribe to my private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video.